Thank you, Janice. My name is Aaron Fessler. I'm the CEO and founder of Tripworks. I'm here to talk today a little bit about Tripworks. And as you'll find out here, we'll spend a few minutes. We do provide tools to help tour operators like yours grow. But as Janice just described, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking a bit about what I learned from designing, building, and operating one of the largest tourist attractions in Las Vegas, all the way from an idea and a blank sheet of paper to success. I like this picture because I think we all have good days and bad days. And I can remember early in my tourism career in great detail about a very specific bad day I had. And on this particular bad day, I received a text with this photo and a note from my employee saying, "Hey, boss, we got a big problem over here." But before I tell you about why I got this picture and exactly what I did about it, let me back up a little bit. As you may have figured out from that, I like cars. This was my very first car. It was a 1983 Chevette. It was rusty brown, 52 horsepower. It didn't position me very favorably with the girls in my high school, but it did let me leave the small farm I grew up in Ohio and find some adventure. So the good news, as time went on, that got replaced by a Renault Fuego. It was famously ridiculed as one of the worst sports cars of all time. Then a 1987 Honda Prelude, a pickup truck, and then later a 1992 Dodge Viper. This was a ridiculously basic car, no door handles, no windows, but certainly very emotional. It was a sick car, and by the time I earned enough as a single 20-something dude, my road problems comfortably faded in the distance. But as fun as these cars were, I'll never forget the first time I visited a racetrack. This is the Mid-Ohio racetrack. I'm surprised at how much there was to learn about cornering and braking and apexes, all that sort of stuff. The next season of my life really sort of turned to family and cars and those sorts of things, but I never really forgot the thrill of cars. After selling a few technology companies, I thought a lot about the next chapter of my life and decided to leave technology and go back to my passion for cars. So in 2010, I started the first tourist attraction that I had. It was called World Class Driving. So in this tourist attraction, our customers experience the thrill of driving an exotic car on a guided road course, stopping and switching cars about every 20 miles or so. Our staff took to the road with a fleet of exotic cars in about 50 cities across the United States, and you would drive a Ferrari and then a Lamborghini and then a Bentley. I will say this, it became a lot more interesting at parties, right? No one really cared much about the anti-piracy technology that I had built, but Ferraris on fire, well, that generally gets some attention. So here again is that very bad day. This was in the summer of 2012 on a road tour, one of these that I just described in San Antonio, Texas. The good news is that nobody was hurt, and we had lots of insurance, and everything turned out fine. But in any case, our customers on these tours, they told us they really drive driving on roads. But what they really wanted to do was what I did. It was drive on a racetrack. They wanted to open it up. They wanted to drive really, really fast. On a public road, you really couldn't do that. So we thought really hard about our customers and our markets, and it became pretty clear that if we could find a fixed base of operations, and we could find a permanent racetrack in a sunny climate, somewhere with an endless stream of tourists, we'd have a hit on our hands. And so ultimately, the logical location came up, and that was sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. And so off we went. I spent about 4 years grinding through architecture and planning, real estate deals and financing, permits, competitor lawsuits, wining and dining casinos and resorts. But by April of 2016, we had moved 500,000 cubic yards of dirt, paved a 1.5 mile racetrack just outside the Las Vegas resort corridor, built a 20,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility. We spent about $40 million turning a 100-acre patch of dirt on the Strip in Las Vegas into SpeedVegas. So obviously, we thought it would go well, right? But we really had no idea exactly how well it would go. So here's a couple of pictures that sort of show that people went wild. It became and still is today one of the top tourist attractions in Las Vegas. And nearly 100,000 people a year go to SpeedVegas and experience the thrill of driving an exotic car on a racetrack in Las Vegas. There's a reasonable chance that you've been there. If not, perhaps one of your friends have been. And we knew pretty early on that for a business of this scale, we needed great systems, right, to help us run the business. Managing these endless crowds of eager customers became one of our most urgent priorities. Now, here's an example of some of the things that we knew we needed. We needed tools to help us measure our business and run charges through and send them emails and pick up the phones and run our QuickBooks and those sorts of things. And so, like many of you, we went to the market and soon discovered what a lot of tour operators found in 2015, 2016. The platforms out there to run businesses like that and to make sales aren't so smart, and they're not so easy to use. And so what we needed was a leapfrog platform that was way smarter and way easier to use than any system that we'd ever seen before, and super easy for our team of 100 people to use. The second thing we realized is that our customers began to change. They went from calling 800 numbers and looking at magazine advertisements to relying upon Yelp, and they wanted to use things like Apple Pay from their phones while traveling. They began to look at TripAdvisor and Google Ads and inform their decision. Social media became a huge, huge influencer and driver of business. Customers wanted to shop and to be spoken to in modern and fresh ways. And they wanted to use texting to communicate with us. Like I mentioned, they wanted to use Apple Pay and Google Pay to pay for things. And since I had a really strong technology background, a few patents, we put together a team at SpeedVegas to help us do things in a way smarter and easier way to use than possible. And that system really transformed our business and unlocked tremendous growth. I'm going to talk a bit about that here in a moment. We made some really mature tools to help us sell more things to each visitor. And over time, our average spend per visitor nearly doubled, and it got far easier for our customers to spend more during their visit. And soon word got out, and my fellow operators in the industry saw what we were doing and said, "Hey, Aaron, this is great. Why should I be stuck with these old ways of doing business? Can you help us?" And ultimately, that's what led to where I am today, and that's Tripworks. So what is Tripworks? I'll spend a minute on describing what that is, and then I'm going to talk about 3 important things that we did with Tripworks at SpeedVegas to unlock some pretty big value. I think you can put those to good use. It's a powerful, easy to use, and a very modern platform to help tour operators grow their business. And we put a lot of emphasis on the word grow because I think that's unique about us. If you want a system to make a great website, or to you're constrained by your capacity and you aren't particularly growth oriented, there are a lot of great platforms out there that perhaps are good fits for you. But at SpeedVegas, we were really focused on growing. And so a lot of what Tripworks is all about is geared to help operators grow their business. And fundamentally, it's 4 pieces that are snapped together. Number one, a variety of things that I'll show you today to help you analyze the why behind the business. Why is the business doing what it's doing? Tools to help drive marketing. So we started at SpeedVegas spending a couple $1,000s a month on paid advertising, pay-per-click. And by the time 2018 and 19 rolled around, we were spending as much as $150,000 per month. And no one in their right minds wakes up one day and says, "Let's spend $150,000 this month on pay-per-click ads." The only reason you do it is because you have tools like what I will show you here today to give you a lot of confidence that you can sleep at night knowing that $150,000 spent on advertising something will give you some more value. Third, reviews. We're going to talk a bit about reviews. And finally, clearly, the ability to operate and execute that business. Really beautiful and great dashboards, which are designed to unlock the why behind the platform. Things like Sankey charts to help figure out how people are working their way through your marketing funnels and getting to the finish line. Forecasting so that you can get some comfort that you're not going to run out of money during slow and peak periods. And then really, really amazing integration across reviews, check-ins, flags, scheduling, rebooking, all that sort of stuff. I'm blowing through a list because if you have been in the industry, you're going to find tools that do lots of things. You should assume that Tripworks has a lot of that kind of stuff in spades. But we're going to spend a few minutes now talking about 3 things in particular that help SpeedVegas grow. And they're going to fall into a couple of categories. Number 1, we're going to talk about abandoned cart management and what that did for me at SpeedVegas. Number 2, we're going to talk about reviews and marketing. And number 3, finally, we'll talk about weather, communication, and rebooking. Now, there are maybe 20 things that are in this general family of unique differentiators that we love to talk about. I've just chosen 3 today. At the end of the call, if you have questions or would like to do a demonstration with Tim on our team to dig in further, that might make good sense for you. Let's switch over now to a web browser. All right, I'm going to talk first about abandoned cart management. What is abandoned cart management? Well, a big part of success today, as I mentioned, is making sure that e-commerce is performing at its peak. Today, buyers are less inclined in a tourist market to walk to a third party like a hotel concierge to make a decision. They're far more commonly going to pick up their phone either while they're traveling out of market or in advance of it to make their decision. Therefore, the customer experience needs to be really, really geared toward making sure that customers that are early in the funnel get captured and sent to the bottom. And let me show you how we do that. It's a bit different. I'm looking now at a customer's website. This is not our website. This is a current customer of ours. They use the Tripworks platform to power their business. This particular customer, as you can see, has a $325 product price. On average, customers at this experience spend about $600. They'll come in pairs. What you generally find is that once your average price gets beyond about $300, maybe $400, some friction gets introduced into the process. For a $25 ticket, they're comfortable blindly spending $25 without qualifying it. But once you get to $300, $400, $1,000, very commonly you are going to look at other competitive options, and you may want to talk to someone to get comfortable that it's $1,000 well spent. And so we designed our flow in 2 steps to capture customer intent information, which you can do something with, and it becomes really important if your purchase price is beyond about $300. In this particular case, if we start the buying process, let's walk through this here. We'll go ahead and attempt to purchase. Once we fill out this contact information, we will create in Tripworks what's called a draft order. A draft order will capture all their contact information, and that's before the second step, which is the payment. So we're going to flip over now into Tripworks on the back end and show you what a draft order will look like. Here's an example of a customer that has gone through the process, and we would be able to see all this information even long before payment happens. So they just may be browsing the website, they might be interested, but they have not yet purchased. In this particular case, we surface things like their avatar, their Facebook handle. We often will get their home location, their age, their gender, those sorts of things. And that's really important, and you'll see why here in a moment. Next, you may recall that I showed you a slide at the beginning where I found that we needed about 15 different pieces to work together to make the SpeedVegas business work well. That's pretty common. In one of those pieces commonly is abandoned cart management. If someone starts this process and abandons, how do you go back to them? Well, there are 2 ways to do it. First, you could go to the marketplace and you could go find, there's lots of different companies that would provide a solution for you, but it will act independently of your booking platform. At Tripworks, I wanted that all bolted into one place, along with a lot of other pieces. And here's an example of what it looks like. In this particular case, as soon as Nicole started her purchase, we pre-scheduled lots of automated emails within the platform to go out to her. And you can see here's one. We said, Nicole, come back and finish your purchase. Come look at some reviews. We want to build some trust. Number 2, a day or so later, an additional one. And then finally, a third one. If she still didn't complete her purchase, in that case, we may have offered a promotional code to get her to finally complete her purchase. Now you can see as those 3 messages were spaced about a day or so apart, Nicole did in fact open all 3 of those, which is really interesting and powerful. And then finally, she did go and complete her purchase. And so what you find here is that there was nothing this operator needed to do, but we were able, you can see from this tab, over the course of about 2 days to lure her back to the customer's website and to complete the purchase, winning $700. We call this an automated conversion. That will generally, if done well, bring about a 7 to 11% lift to your top line. So an operator that does $1 million, commonly you should see, done well with a platform like Tripworks, a $70 to maybe $110,000 lift to your top line. In fact, we've got a report where we can show that in this particular customer's case. I'm going to go over into reports. I'll look at conversions, and we'll look over the last year. And you can see here we're charting over a period of time by day the number of automated and assisted conversions that took place. Now, what's the difference between an automated conversion and an assisted conversion? With an automated conversion, what's happening here is we've now sent Nicole lots of emails over 2 or 3 days, and with no effort on your part, she simply responded to those, and on her own, she went in and put a credit card payment, and she completed the purchase. But there's another half of it. As you recall, I mentioned that they commonly would like to talk to someone. And so our platform is pretty clever because you can set up alerts in here so that when someone starts one of those draft purchases, you can elect to get notified either by email, a text on your phone as the tour operator, or an internet pop-up. And you'll get this within 20 or 30 minutes of starting the purchase. So again, the flow here is Nicole goes to your website, she starts a purchase, and then she puts her phone down or she begins to look at competitor websites. But you, the tour operator, will get a text on your phone saying there's a visitor, Nicole, on your website. She lives in Ohio. Here's her Facebook profile. She's female. She started a $700 purchase, but she hasn't yet finished it. At that point, you can elect to pick up the phone and you can call Nicole and say, Nicole, thank you. I see that you started and abandoned a purchase. Would you like to complete that purchase? And you can answer any questions that she might have. This operator is doing this very, very successfully. And you'll see here in this particular case, using those built-in tools they have scored these assisted conversions where they went in and they put some additional effort and he got another $24,000 in sales with that approach. So again, that works really, really well because it's all built in and it's in one particular platform. So that's kind of feature number one. Again, a good 7 to 11% lift if things are done well with abandoned carts. The second thing I want to talk a little about is marketing. So you may recall at the very marketing and reviews. When we first started, TripAdvisor began to really flex and create additional weight in the consumer's mind and drove what they wanted to purchase. And we found that if we were ranked as the top 2 or 3 things to do in our market in Las Vegas, our sales would differ from nothing from TripAdvisor per month to as much as $50,000 per month from TripAdvisor. And since there was no cost to do so, we were highly motivated to figure out how to get our reviews on a platform like Yelp and TripAdvisor at a quality where we would be ranked consistently as the top 1 or 2 things to do in that market. And we found it was a couple of things. First was overall volume and velocity. That's really important, but that's about half the score. The other part was making sure there was nothing less than a 5-star. When you have 100,000 people go through, how do you're going to mess some things up. And so how do you prevent that? Ultimately, what we found is that the customer wanted to have a voice. They wanted to be heard. And so if they had some problem or some concern of some kind, they didn't necessarily need to shame me as the tour operator, but they definitely wanted to make sure that they were heard. And so what we did is we identified that if we gave them a way to get heard before they ever got home or they ever got to Yelp or TripAdvisor, and we were able to respond to that, the likelihood that they would go leave anything less than a 5-star review plummeted. And so that became and is an important part of this particular platform. So you can see here that some automated messages went out to this particular guest. They can be set up however you'd like, but generally about an hour after the experience completes by text on their phone and by email asking them to write a review. And we will continue to send a few of those over a couple of days until the review gets left. The beautiful thing here is that since they're built within the platform, all this stuff lives under one profile. So everything I've shown you now augments their profile. Now I can see here that Chelsea came and Chelsea left a review about this experience. I can see that she loved it, she said it was awesome, and she's loved. We use sentiment analysis to figure out the tone of what they're talking a bit about. We'll highlight for your team green and red to give you a sense. But since it's all in one place, you know exactly when they came, what form of credit card they used, who on your staff helped them, how much of a tip they left. When they checked in, what kind of device was used. This information is all in one place. This type of information we work really hard to put in front of your entire team. And what I found at SpeedVegas is this, when I made this information visible to everybody, it became a really important part of our culture. So our team culture of about 100 people began to really, really get excited about positive reviews and took negative reviews very, very personally. And so as soon as we get an internal review, the same notification system I showed you, you can get a text on your phone, your operations manager can get a daily email summarizing everything they got. Again, I mentioned we use sentiment analysis, so there's just really great stuff. You can kind of get the sense pretty quickly about how people are feeling. You can get a sense of whether or not they're complaining about venue or the level of music or the speed of check-in or those sorts of things. So review management was an important part of our growth strategy. That drove, again, around $50,000 a month at peak in business from TripAdvisor alone. The second part of that middle category is around marketing support. I mentioned at the beginning we began to spend about $1,000 a month on pay-per-click ads, and by the end we were spending about $150,000 per month on pay-per-click ads. And so someone famously quoted that I know about half of my marketing spend is wasted, and I just don't know which half. And so we really, really worked hard and rolled up our sleeves to solve that problem. Let me show you how we solved that problem. First of all, our platform is designed in such a way that anytime someone is on your website shopping, we create first-party cookies to help us detect where they came from. Did they come from a paid advertisement? Did they come from an Instagram organic post of yours? Did they come from an email referral link or something like that? We capture all that information in first-party cookies that are stored on the browser. And then all the way at the finish line, we take those and we surface those. So let's look at an example of one of these here. Let's what happens is when the trips are created, we call them trips, all that information is automatically extracted and used so that you can slice and dice all of your sales information accordingly. And the kind of neat stuff you get is you can see things like exactly if on a pay-per-click ad, which keyword was typed in that drove them to purchase, right? You can see all the stuff over on Google Analytics or Google Ads or Facebook or those sorts of things, but when you put it directly within your platform, I can go directly into a trip and I can see an exact purchase. I can see in this particular case that I got a $1,300 purchase because someone typed the word, fishing in Atlanta or whatever the keyword is. Extremely powerful. We let you slice and dice that information by things like ad group, and device types, and ad campaigns, ad positions, so that you can figure out exactly which ad position worked best for you. So there's just a lot of really, really amazing sophistication to help you figure out the why behind your business. Why did I get sales today, and why did I not? You also see in some of these charts, like this one here, as a brief aside, that we present data in a pretty cyclical fashion. So a lot of businesses are highly seasonal, and the season can be defined as a weekly or annually. So when I'm looking at comparisons, I often want to look at, I understand that Monday was worse than Sunday. I get that, right? That's not interesting to me. What's more interesting is how did this Sunday compare to last Sunday, or this month compared to 1 month a year ago. SpeedVegas was no different, cyclical business. And so a lot of what we did was gearing around helping me understand if things were better than comparable periods over a long period of time. So again, to summarize that middle one, reviews and review management really helped me figure out how to get people to stop saying bad things on TripAdvisor and Yelp, put us at the top of the listings, and unlock, in my case, about $50,000 a month in TripAdvisor referral business alone. And second was a lot of marketing capabilities that allowed me to understand why I got sales, where did they come from, and why did they give me money. And the third and final category I'll touch on was the mechanics of running the business. So this part isn't particularly as sexy, but I think it's worth noting because to the extent that you run a larger tourist attraction, the likelihood that something will go badly and that you need to have strong tools to deal with it become really important. And we're looking in this particular case again at Seattle Ballooning. This is a hot air balloon operator in Seattle, and they're very weather dependent. So their problem is they might have a $25,000 day with 100 guests coming, and then if it becomes too windy, the entire day is canceled, which creates, prior to Tripworks, a tremendous amount of churn and pain and frustration inside the business. Rebooking 100 guests, communicating with them became logistically a bit of a problem. And let me show you, we had the same problem in SpeedVegas, and so in both cases, I will show you how we solved that problem. So we're looking at a particular manifest on this particular day. You can see that there are maybe 30 guests arriving for different dates and times. We make it really easy to do things like cancel all the guests on a day. So we can send them a really simple and beautiful and customized message to cancel all the guests. And so that's really just a one-step click. We can also do some things here. We could cancel an individual guest, so it's pretty straightforward. Let's look at the guest here. Let's say that the weather is bad on this particular day. Send them a beautifully formatted message. This is all built into the platform. There's nothing that you really need to do at this point. And once we do that, they're going to get a link where they can go through on their own and they can rebook. So if you have 100 guests coming and you need to cancel for some reason, if you're a water-based activity, it becomes really easy for you then to send all guests on during a particular period communications to tell them, we'd like for you to, you can do this to get a refund, you can do this to reschedule, et cetera, et cetera. So again, those are kind of 2 or 3 really important parts of the platform that help drive a lot of success for us. I'm going to pause at this point because booking platforms are one of my very favorite things to talk about, and I'll wrap it up a little bit and I'll hand over some questions and answers. Again, we talked about abandoned carts and how we got about a 7-11% top line lift by solving that problem well. We talked about reviews, which got people to stop saying bad things and allowed me to see them before they said bad things on TripAdvisor and Yelp. We talked a bit about marketing analysis, which allowed us to scale our marketing activities from $1,000 a month to something that's significantly higher than that. And then finally, the third category is we talked a bit about reducing the cost of my business with staff that were required to contact guests and perform rescheduling by having a platform to do that at scale. I'll close here with a little bit of our business model because I'm really proud of our business model. I wouldn't say it's particularly innovative, so you're probably comfortable with it and you've heard about it. But what do I like about it? Number one is I have a whole presentation I typically do on how the landscape is changing with guest fees at checkout. They're commonly called booking fees or convenience fees. I, like most people, was pretty resistant to that when it first came out. But what I've generally found is that it's a model that's increasingly been very well accepted by customers. So it's a model that we would encourage you to look at. It's not required. But what this generally means with Tripworks is that if you have a $100 tourist attraction, you sell it, we help you retail it, and you receive $100 for your ticket. At checkout, we will add something on top of that to pay for any credit card processing fees that comes out of our pocket, not yours, any cost to run the platform, those sorts of things. But for a lot of people, this becomes a really, really important way to move some costs off of your P&L and to the customer checkout. We don't charge any form of a monthly fee. We do that, I like to think of it as what I call an honest model. If I charged our customers a fixed fee each month, frankly, I would prefer that they not call us, because at that point, they're just a cost to be managed. Instead, we have a variable model because we are paid as a percentage of sales at checkout, paid by the customer. The only way we grow is if you grow. If you're flat, we're flat. If your business suffers, we suffer. Therefore, I'm pretty excited now, and our team's excited when you call us, because when you call us, the only reason you're probably calling us is because you have an idea on how you can grow your business, and we want you to grow. We're excited when you grow. So again, I think that's an honest model. We also don't have a contract, meaning there's no term that you're bound in for. The reality is we have to earn your trust. We have to earn your business every month. If we don't get the job done, we don't do what we promised, you fire us, you get somebody else. We don't believe in tying you down. We feel comfortable that we can deliver value to the right customers who are growth oriented, so we don't require that. That also means that unlike some platforms, we don't limit what you can do with it. So some people, what they'll try to do is they'll say, this tier, you get this, and this tier, you get that, and all that. We don't do that. And again, the reason we don't do that is because we want you to have every feature that we've ever thought. We want you to have every capability, every knob, every lever, because we want you to sell more tickets. And so when we come up with really great things like variable pricing, demand-based pricing, all those sorts of things, we want you to use it. We want you to figure out how to get as high of a ticket price as possible, sell as many tickets as possible, because when you win, we win. So that's basically our model. We're highly variable. And again, everything's super modern, super fast, a lot of really great things under the hood. That we're built on top of a Stripe. It's not the cheapest platform out there, but it's by far the best. It's Target, Uber, Slack, Amazon, Spotify, all these guys use it. So everything's very fresh and modern and current. We support 135 currencies, Apple Pay, Google Pay, all that kind of stuff. It's a really beautiful and well-done platform. And in the end, our customers are our biggest advocates. Our biggest source of leads today are people who refer us. And so we'd be happy to put you in touch with people who use our platform. We're not the right fit for everybody, but for the ones you are the fit for, they love us. So with that, that concludes my formal presentation. I'll hand it back over to you, Janice, and then take any questions that you might have.
Okay, and thank you, Aaron. That was a wonderful presentation. So thank you very much. I encourage everyone, if you have questions, to go ahead and enter them into chat. Our first question is asking about the pricing model and what exactly the percentages are and how they break down.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So we typically charge a 5% fee to the customer. Again, you can absorb that fee if you like. We don't recommend it. We allow you to split that fee, move it around so you can absorb if you'd like, or you can charge the customer at checkout. Most people like to take that and a credit card processing fee, and so it ends up being about 8% on average to the customer at checkout. Again, you can absorb it, you can change it. You can also upcharge it if you like. So some markets, they'll do as high as about 11% at checkout. So in that particular case, you would keep about 4 points of that. We would end up using 8, and in that case, 3 to fund your credit card payment if that's what they use, and then 5 to run the platform. Again, no monthly fees, no setup fees, no contracts, nothing like that.
Okay, terrific. The next question is, I have multiple locations. Can I use the Tripworks platform?
You sure can. So we have one client that we're in the middle of onboarding that has about 40 locations right now. Yeah, that's fully supported. We do provide multi-tenant reports. So if you have the need to look at reports that span locations, or you want to compare locations, if they're the same kind of business, that becomes really important. We do have that capability. You can assign team members to have visibility over certain locations or all locations. This simply can switch toggle between your locations in the upper right corner of the platform.
Okay, terrific. Can I sell merchandise and food and beverages on the Tripworks platform?
Good question. So I will say that as you look at the entire landscape of product that would conceivably support what we do, they fall into four big categories. There's a family of products around hospitality. So if you're doing a hotel or lodging type of a thing, those are usually a whole family of people. There's a family of products around personal services. Those are going to be hair salons and nails and that sort of thing. The model doesn't quite fit what most tour operators do. They live by themselves. There's a third around sort of gyms, that's subscriptions and classes and all that. That kind of fits by itself. There's another final category, which is usually to the point of sale or restaurants, and that's the bar, and that's ketchup and fries and all that sort of stuff. That's a whole another family of product. Where we really do best is for people that are doing a thing at a particular time. So if they're going to do your thing at 2:30 on Saturday, this platform is a really great fit for you. Having said that, we have expanded. We do have a point of sale product that supports barcodes and in-ship terminal readers in person, so that you can sell hats and T-shirts and those sort of things. There's some basic inventory management. It's appropriate for most people to have maybe 10 or 15 or 20% of their entire business centered around physical merchandise at checkout. There's also a pretty mature gift card retailing program, so that's a really important part of people. You can do both digital and physical. That's what's supported.
Okay, terrific. You talked about reviews, and the question was, how do the reviews go online? Can you talk about the process there?
Yeah, sure can. So let me walk through that again very, very briefly. All right, so we had an example here of a particular guest. Let's look at the guest once again. So inside the platform, the way it works is there's a fair amount of communication that can be set up. So we give you some really mature tools to let you design an email in a way that makes sense for you. And by default, the system will ship with a few follow-up messages that will ask your guest to come to a web page hosted by us and leave a review. All right, so there's two ways to do it. I'm going to describe the first approach. In that particular case, what will happen is, I'll show you what one will look like. They will end up going to a page that looks a bit like this. Let's look at one of those and then how it would appear. Let's see. Follow up, here we go. So Debbie will get an email that looks a bit like this. If she were to click it on her phone or on her email, she'll get something that's like this. So we'll ask about her experience. We'll ask for one thing that could be changed and ask her for a review. At this point, your entire team will see the review and will get saved along with her trip, as I showed you a bit before. We'll do some sentiment analysis and capture it all. Importantly, once she saves it, if she left at least a 4, on the very next page, we will pre-copy the content up here that she left about it and ask her to then paste it. We'll give a simple little box on the next page on, you can choose Google reviews, TripAdvisor, or Yelp. Those are the 3. So it's got some pros and cons. The pros are, if you take that approach, her review will be captured with her trip. You'll see all that sentiment analysis. It'll appear on the dashboards and all that really, really great stuff. That's generally the way most people do it. However, you don't have to do it that way. The other way that you can do it is, some people say, you know what, that's great, Aaron, but we don't want to use your review management platform. We want them to go straight to TripAdvisor or straight to Yelp. That's fine. Just be aware that if they've got something bad to say, you don't have any way of cutting it off at that point. I talked a bit about how it's important for us at Tripworks. So in that case, we can help you. We just change the link to that post-event email message that goes out to go directly to TripAdvisor, Yelp, or where them to go. You can do it.
Terrific.
It's really up to you.
And another question that just came in is, how do you handle corporate bookings, team building activities, where perhaps the number of staff who attend will not fully known until the initial booking is made?
That part is it's pretty important and done really, really well. I would say one of the parts about the platform that people love is the ability to make significant changes to a booking before the process is complete. And again, a lot of this traces its DNA back to the SpeedVegas. SpeedVegas corporate and group style bookings were a really important part of our success. So in this particular case, here is a, let's go ahead and we'll start a new purchase. We'll pretend to, I don't know if we can do this one. Let's do a snowboarding purchase. We'll pretend here for this illustration that this is actually a group or corporate event. I'm in a demonstration account right now. Let's look at that. Now, in this particular case, we've chosen them for April 28th. That's 2 days from now. We'll go ahead and we'll reserve this trip. And so at this point, it's on the books. It's not been paid for, but it's on the books and reserved. But very commonly, they might want to call up and say, look, we've just added 3 more people, and the third person wants some hats. We make that pretty easy. Let's add 3 more guests to this booking. And now it's gone from 3 to 6 people. So it's pretty straightforward. If on the first guy we want to sell him some shoes, we can do that. But it's, we're going to drop a guest, all that kind of modification to things. It's really, really built in and designed to be done well. So it's we give a lot more flexibility than I think you're probably used to with things like unscheduling trips. So you can remove them without canceling them. You can move additional dates. You can add or remove guests. There's a tremendous amount of flexibility around that. We've taken a bit of a looser view of that than I think other platforms have. I see there's a question here as well, Janice, about the post
Yes.
sequence message. That's an excellent question. It's both, but it's designed to be 100% automated. Again, if you're running a platform with 100,000 people a year, you can't be sitting here clicking things all day. So let me show you what that looks like. First of all, on each event, we allow you to turn on a confirmation message that gets sent. And then in advance of it, you can send up to 2 messages at predefined intervals. You can send them whatever you like. You can say bring your flip-flops, wear your hat, your sandals, whatever you sort of want. And optionally, there are additional 3 messages that you can send after the event. You can space them out as far as you like or as close as you like. All completely automated if you turn them on, which most people do, and will go out by themselves. But that does not prevent you at any time you want of making your own templates, saying whatever you like it's too windy, or you'd like to request a payment or deposit. You can make as many of those as possible. We put all that in the platform because we find that if you have a lot of entry-level staff members, their ability to communicate your brand well is limited at best. And so the tools here, I think you can find are pretty mature.
Okay, great. Another question came in about tipping, and do you have the option of allowing tipping in the review email?
Yeah, the tipping stuff is really, really mature. I think that's one area that we've done pretty well. A lot of it's because we've used newer terminal readers that have come out recently from manufacturers that are all wireless, so they can be used in the field. They are EMV readers, and they're also Apple Pay and Google Pay equivalent. So down here, we'll look at tip settings. There are a couple places that you can do that. We allow you to several tip models. The first is what we call a shared pooled model, and that's at checkout. You can prompt several places, including on the readers, to just say, I would like to leave a tip, and then the tip goes into a pool. At that point, you would run a report saying I got $4,000 in tips last month. It'll be up for you to figure out what you want to do with those, who you split those among. We also give you another one, which is a bit more advanced. At checkout, if a guest chooses to leave a tip, your employee will see a screen pop up with a list of all the user avatars, and they'll click, this tip goes to Jimmy, or this tip goes to Sally. And so it gets assigned to a particular person. And then it becomes really straightforward at the end of the month. We give you a tip report up here, and the tip report will simply list for you, these are all the tips that were collected for the month, and it's so much for Sam, and so much for Sally, and so much for Jim. So that part's nice. We also let you set things like the percentage-based amounts that are prompted. So that part's done well. We have another piece which is important for mobile operators. So not everybody ends the venue at an office. So if you're at an office, this is a pretty good way to go. A lot of people, again, water sports, or if you're at a dock or unloading something like that, that flow just won't work for you. You don't have card readers out in the field. So we've got a solution for that. In that particular case, it looks a bit like this. You'll be standing out in the field. At that point, you've given them their champagne or their picture or whatever to type their experience. Most people do this on an iPad reader, and they'll click this little button right here. Now, we tokenize every single card. So this means if they start on e-commerce and put their card, we save that card with their trip. At any point along the way, if they call in and talk to you and they read their credit card, we save that credit card with the trip. There's no extra cost for that. It's built into the platform. Here's why we do that. The reason we do that is because now when they are completing the trip, if you're at the shuttle van or you're at the dock or whatever, you show them this screen on an iPad and you turn around and you show it to them. Their card is already saved on file. So they're holding the champagne. It becomes really easy for you to have them just click the leave a tip button and click the button. Now they can use a different car and type it in if they want, but this is really, really, really powerful for operators who are mobile. So got a lot of really great in-premise stuff. We've got a lot of mobile infield stuff, and then you're right, the final third category is you can do QR codes on the wall we support, and then finally in your review emails, there's an option to leave a tip as well. So lots and lots of tip models. It's very advanced.
Okay, and another question, Aaron, is about integrated waiver platforms, e-waivers.
Yeah, excellent question. So driving race cars on the track, like everything, requires a waiver. So we have a beautiful waiver solution built in. Let me show you what that looks like. You can go in here yourself and upload your own waiver. Let's take a look at that. Waivers right here. You want to work with your lawyer and figure that out. But you stick it in here. We give you lots of merge codes for initials and signature boxes and all that sort of stuff. We let you indicate, you can have different waivers for different experiences. We let you control which fields you want to ask for, like their insurance information, if it's a minor, whether you want some ID and all that sort of stuff. Now, we give you flows to communicate in advance as much as possible with the guest. Please sign your waiver, please sign your waiver, please sign your waiver. We stop doing that once they've actually signed it. We encourage the guests to do that before they arrive. But a lot of people, they just simply don't do it. So at that point, once they arrive, lots of things you can do. You can send them a text. You can have them walked over to like a smart waiver type of a tab. You don't use smart waiver, but it's much like that. It's our own system. You can present a QR code, but the idea is on their mobile device, they flip through and sign the waiver. As soon as they sign the waiver, let's see if we can find one in here that has been completed. You can see what it would look like. Here we go. Here's a guest. So it'll be pretty clear. In this case, Hamantha has signed the waiver, and we can see here what the waiver would look like. So she's completed information, signed her signature, off she goes. So no extra cost for that, completely built in, fully integrated. All the manifest will show waivers, so you can see on the day of check-in, you have 12 guests today, and 4 have completed waivers and 3 haven't, or whatever. It's all built in. Good question.
Okay, great. So I think we've hit all the questions that have come in, and so with that, I think we'll say thank you so much. Folks who are on the call with us, if you are interested in us getting in contact with you, just give us a thumbs up in the chat box and we'll know that you're interested and want someone to contact you, Tim, to contact you after the webinar. We'll also follow up with an email thanking you for joining us. And if there's any other questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we will wrap up this webinar and say thank you very much. Aaron, did you want to close with any final comments?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. If you have an interest in hearing back from us, just shoot a little thumbs up or something in the chat box, and then Tim on our team will reach out to you and ask more qualified questions about what you might be trying to accomplish. We would love to help you if you're interested in growing, and we're not the right fit for everybody, but for those that are, we love to help you build your business together. We're passionate about helping tour operators grow. So if that's you, we should have another conversation, and we'd love to work together with you.
Okay. Well, thank you to everyone. We very much appreciate it, and we will follow up with you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Bye all.